Just 3 more days of F1 testing to go before the 2026 season begins. Myself, Scott Mitchell-Marm, Ed Straw, we're on our way into the Bahrain circuit for the start of the final test this week. Ed, we've only got 3 more days of learning to do, and there's kind of less hiding than ever over these 3 days, right? So what do we want to find out?
Absolutely. Well, it's competitive order. Who is really fastest? And to facilitate that, I am really interested to get a firm and consistent picture of the energy deployment and harvesting strategies of these cars, because from power unit to power unit it's quite different. We've seen some trends in the data so far, but what we'll get from the next 3 days will be the highest fidelity and the most clear picture we've got to take into Australia.
Exactly, and we'll be marrying that against what we see trackside, because just because this formula is so engine dependent, so energy poor, and all of the stuff that you've just mentioned there becomes such a big factor, which you can start to discern. You can get some clues from trackside based on what you're hearing, how fast the car's coming through and whatnot, but it's really the data that will feed into that. There's still the good old-fashioned car side as well, what we don't know, and I think we'll start to get a better picture of this week, because we did get a few comparative race runs last week, but they happened at different times of day, different days entirely. Different drivers within teams tended to be struggling or faring slightly better, so it was just hard to get more of a read. All of that will start to come together over these last few days, and we'll get an idea of how much car versus engine is kind of playing a factor. It'll be really interesting, for example, if we can start to get a clearer picture of how we and others are viewing the cars on track versus what results in the fastest lap time, because that's still a big unknown, isn't it?
Exactly, yes, because you get trade-offs. You might get cars that look trickier in the corner entry zones, but they're pulling back more on the straights, etc. So it's a very different performance profile over the lap compared to what we've seen before, and obviously trackside it's a snapshot depending on run, depending on what corner you can see, so that has to be put together with all of the other sources of information, the lap times, long runs, short runs, the word in the paddock, the on record and off record comments. So that's what testing's all about. It's true to say that lap times in isolation are meaningless in testing, but if you aggregate all that information, you start to get a picture and an understanding of what you are looking at.
And one of the things that cropped up so much when we asked the Race Members Club for their questions to answer for a special Q&A we did in between the 2 tests, and we're recording this video as one of the perks that we normally save for the Members Club, but we wanted to put it out a bit more widely as well, just to give a little bit of an idea of the sort of behind the scenes content that we do. We are running a 7-day free trial at the moment of the Members Club, so if you're seeing this for the first time and you're not involved, get involved, because we really enjoy doing this sort of extra stuff, and as I say, engaging with the members, because by far and away the number one topic we got asked about in terms of a specific thing, well, 2 things really, but the first one, absolutely, Aston Martin. Has Adrian Newey got it wrong? How much trouble's it in? How bad does it look really? The first test sort of gave us an idea that it's definitely on the back foot. I think this test will tell us how much.
Yes, they need to get mileage, because that's not helping them. They're hitting trouble, and that's slowing things down from their late start already. So they need to go round and round and round and do all of those things that they've yet to do. The Aston Martin, I expect to make a good step, but I don't know if they have a successful test where that will get them to. It's still not going to be great, is it? But they have got progress they need to make, and I'd like to know what are the hard limits with that car that they need to do some bigger picture development stuff that's not just about optimization and understanding, because there do seem to be some challenges on that side of things.
There's going to be a simple initial target, I'm sure, and that's going to be just log 100 lap days over the course of this final test. The problem that they've got is I'm sure they've got a very good idea at the moment of their weaknesses, that they'll know if it's weak on harvesting, they'll know if it's slightly weak on deployment on the engine side, they'll know if the gearbox, the first Team Silverstone gearbox since 2008, did you say the other day?
Yeah, they've used customer ones ever since.
If that is not doing a good enough job in terms of handling the demands of aggressive downshifts and high revving, if there's anything in that car, that aggressive looking, very newy Enrico Cardile fed into it as well, car design, if there's something there that's not quite working in reality versus virtual, we know very, very well that that's something that's tripped this team up in the past. The more that car runs, and again, we're going to come back to this phraseology a couple of times, the less there is to hide. Aston Martin wasn't pretending last week it's behind. It's really about finding how much, where it is, and how quickly you can realistically make progress.
Yeah, and they'll be hoping that the conditions at the track are a little bit better than what we're driving into.
I was just thinking
which
that.
Currently, I would say it looks like thick fog, but this is actually sand, isn't it? So it's really, really poor visibility. It's just changed in the last minute or so we've been driving into it, because you basically, Manama, the city is in the north of the island, you drive south towards the track, so it's getting worse. It usually clears up, but that's one of the things. You don't get much rain in Bahrain, but you do sometimes get sand.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how much of it is kind of the fog that you're used to seeing, and how much of it is that sand effect. We're coming up to quite a bit of standstill traffic. Hopefully that doesn't mean there's been an accident in the poor visibility. This is the kind of thing that destroyed my chances of getting a good night's sleep when I first arrived in Bahrain, because it was fog like this that grounded my flight overnight. Anyway, back
maybe
to...
it is real fog and not just sand.
I mean, it could well be.
So used to it being,
there was fog a
sand.
week ago, so
Yeah.
but there hasn't been for a while. Anyway, one final thing. This is the other topic that was quite prominent amongst the members' questions. I know how much you love the S word, but this test, it's not gonna tell us how much sandbagging there was last week, because that was a big thing a lot of people were asking. How much is Mercedes sandbagging? Who's sandbagging? Why are people sandbagging? But how real is the picture going to be this week? Because the big thing I've been stressing the last few days, the number one caveat with these new rules is, if someone wants to hide with the ways in which you can charge the battery, the super clipping, whatever, I just feel like it's easier than ever to disguise what you want to do. If you just charge a little bit less and deploy a little bit less, surely you're going to be a little bit slower overall, and it's going to be really, really hard to discern that.
Yeah, ultimately, people tend to overstate how much focus there is on sandbagging from teams. They've got an enormous amount of work to do. They're all trying to get the best out of their cars and learn, and there's a lot to learn with these new power units. So often it's not in their interest, in terms of just pure run plan, to go out and do their best possible lap times, etc. So the sandbagging thing, yeah, okay, it's a little bit part of it, but it's not just one grand game of that. It's about what you need to do. And the other thing to remember as well is this is one specific circuit. It's a quite particular circuit, Bahrain. This is a track that, in terms of, if you think about the energy harvesting, the thing people most commonly think about is the energy harvesting under braking. So you regenerate the energy there. This is one of the better tracks for opportunities just with normal braking to harvest. And then we go to Melbourne, which is at the other end of the table. So equally, just because you're strong here doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be strong in Melbourne. That was always the case because of differences in track configuration and the performance factors that add up to a lap time. But you've got this extra element now as well that feeds into it, that means you could be in a great shape for here, but then you're much more energy starved in Melbourne, and another team might be in a better situation. So there's all of these extra dimensions, and that's why for me the energy regime picture is so important, because that's the detail, that's the element that you plug into your performance models that will tell you if there's going to be swings from track to track, for power unit to power unit.
And it's not just the fact that everybody else, all the teams and engine manufacturers are energy poor. We're going to be data rich in this test. We already had a decent amount in test one, but this is a full-blown proper F1 event. So the whole shebang, in terms of, you're going to have live coverage all through the day. The live timing is going to be working more reliably, more data rich than it was last week, I think. And I think that'll mean that there's a chance to log stuff a little bit more reliably. It'll be easier and quicker to sort of dive into things. You never know, there might also be added data streams that we didn't quite have access to, or you then have to spend time in the days afterwards. So whatever picture we get this week, I feel will form a little bit faster. We're going to focus on trying to defeat the conditions now, because it is a little bit of a tricky journey into Bahrain. This is going to be a fascinating test. You can stay with it across the races channels, and of course on the Race Members Club, as we mentioned earlier.